but let's not talk about it to each other at all. So that was a big part of the rules. Like, we didn't want to alter what the other person would do. We wanted to see how far off or how close the mark we would hit. Because obviously there's like stops to music, you know, a snare roll versus a gravity beat versus like a groovy part. You know, there's things that like you inherently will click to and be like, this will be the rhythm of my riff. So I figured like we would have some cohesiveness, and like, boy, was I wrong.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians, talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. Hope you had an amazing week. I most certainly did. This Vox and Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal are Montreal's premier metal promoter. They put on a bunch of amazing shows all year long here in Montreal. And if you are ever in Montreal and you would like to go see a great show, well, I can guarantee you that Heavy Montreal will have you covered. I'm beyond stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. Now, today on the podcast, I'm very stoked to be with Drew Slavik of See You Next Tuesday. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops episode number 486.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm very stoked to be with Drew Slavik of See You Next Tuesday. It happened, Drew. I put you on the Brutal Awakenings playlist. Well, I didn't put you. My wonderful good friend, Jerry Monk, the metal architect, put you on the Vox and Hops Brutal Awakenings playlist. I did an Instagram post. You wrote me back and you said, how do we get on this podcast? And I was like, I got a slot this Thursday. Let's do it. And here we are. How you doing, Drew?
Not so bad. And yourself?
I'm great. And then as it was all happening, I was like, see you next Tuesday. I know that Chris Fox, I just had him on the podcast when I was in Chicago.
Yeah. Flesh and Blood Robot.
Correct. I had been introduced to Nick, who's in that band, via my good friend Mick Dempsey from Miskatonic Brewing. And I wanted to have a chat with Nick to talk about Kuma's Corner. And then Chris found his way into the chat, too. So we I knew about it beforehand, but I wasn't prepared enough for him. So I'm happy to have a whole See You Next Tuesday episode in the works, because I totally almost ignored you guys when I posted about that. So apologies, but I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you accommodating so quickly.
I changed my entire way of booking is what happened. I was a hoarder. The podcast has been running for now 6 years, and throughout the past 6 years, I was a hoarder. I would hoard episodes. I would stockpile episodes and schedule like 5-6 months out.
Oh, wow.
It was during the pandemic. It was a lot easier. I didn't have tours popping up where I'd have to move everyone. And then throughout the past year, I've just sort of tried to relax because I was afraid that I'd have no episodes and I wouldn't be able to drop something. So now I'm just going week by week, just taking it easy, booking the slots when I can get a slot in between tours, because I find myself not wanting to do interviews on tour. I do them sometimes, but I much rather...
Sure, I get that.
It's a separate mindset, being at home versus being on tour. There's just so many other things happening.
They're really I don't hate them. Like we just did a big tour back in April, and we had like 2 different ones where like an interview person met us at the venue and stuff. But it's always like I'm kind of in my zone, and like the people that
the ritual, the routine.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go to the bar. You know what I do? This is what I do, and this is literally what I did in Toronto. Was like, you want to do an interview? You got to come to Godspeed, because that's where I'm going to be. Come meet me at the bar, because that's what I'm doing.
That's where you go. I kind of before we play, I get in this kind of like Zen mood, you know, where I just kind of I stretch a lot and try to warm up, and you know, there's a whole routine to it for sure.
We have to, because we're getting old. It hurts. It hurts getting old and not stretching. You got to stretch because what we do is intense. It's Vox and Hops, where I hang out with my metal friends talking about their lives and music while normally sharing craft beers, but you don't drink, but you smoked a bunch of weed beforehand and you're sipping on some water. I'm going to have a beer if you don't mind because I found this and I love this beer. I actually got a early version of this with no label, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago at this point, in a box from Sean and I don't know. This is from Avant-Garde, which is an awesome brewery here in Montreal. They're awesome. They're wonderful humans, and they make excellent blended barrel-aged beers, and that's exactly what this is. It's an assemblage of barrel-aged beers from 2023. 5.3%, so it's not too bad. I'm going to crack this. You don't drink now. Have you ever drank? What's that story? And if you have ever drank, do you remember your first beer?
Well, I have drank 2 different times in my life, and both times I learned a lesson that I'm not somebody that should be allowed to drink.
Okay.
So I'm one of those people that has a date on a calendar. So
okay.
Honestly, but you know, coming out of the pandemic was like, I drank in my youth. Before I was even legal to drink, I quit by the time I was 17.
Wow, well, good for you to have that know-withal that it wasn't for you, that it really wasn't working.
That's a whole other story we don't need to get into. But and then I drank my first beer legally at the age of 33 in Canada, no less. I was in Calgary.
Calgary's awesome.
Yeah, I was doing the drive from Calgary through Banff up to Jasper. Gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely. And it was one of those things where it's just like, you know, I hadn't drank since I was 17. I never drank legally. And I just was like, you know, I'll give it a shot. And honestly, for a few years, I was an adult about it. You know, I drank too much here and there, but I held my shit together. And then fucking COVID hit, and I'm a mailman, and I was working 70 plus hours a week. And, you know, a tragedy turned into something awesome, though, because I wrote a record. You know, our comeback record, Distractions, was literally my distraction. I'm just over 4 years sober now. October 19th of 2020, I took my last drink.
Good for you. Congrats.
And, yeah, thank you. And I started writing Distractions right after the new year, that January.
Keep those hands and mind busy.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was right before COVID. I started doing like this DJ gig at a bar a couple nights a week. So I was out late a couple nights drinking and stuff and being absolutely irresponsible. And I was already on the path of not behaving properly, and then COVID just struck. But writing music for me was just like, you know, I would stay up late in my studio and not get sleep and go to work tired the next day. But it wasn't because I was out drinking.
It's because you were being creative and building something.
Exactly. Yeah. So
that's beautiful. Good for you.
Distractions literally was my distraction. So it was just kind of worked out to be named that.
That's it. It totally makes sense. And good for you, honestly, to realize and take the actions that you need. Super important, people listening, that there's times that you just need to slow down. And then there's times that you need to just stop.
You know, ironically enough, my wife got Slow Down tattooed on her knuckles shortly after COVID.
Really? Okay.
She was right there with me. It was actually her that was the catalyst for us to stop. She was the one that found the strength and was like, well, we got to be done with this. And I didn't know. I was like I said, I was working a ton. So blinded by
going to work, coming home, numbing yourself, and then repeating it the next day.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot better off now, you know, like, I have like zero complaints about my life, which with what I can control, I should say, because I have many complaints about the world. But as far as my immediate, the things that I can control, you know, like my job, my work-life balance, my relationship with my wife, and, you know, just like that stuff, you know, my ability to take time and make more music and put out records just like I did this past weekend. And
hell yeah. No more excuses. That's what I like. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. It was funny. I was talking to another Canadian by the name Ryan Peter. I don't know if you know that guy. He does the Been There, Seen That.
No, I don't know him. Ryan Peter.
Okay. Yeah, he's from Windsor, I think.
Okay.
He does like this. He does like MySpace revival records and stuff like that.
Very cool. Releases
some tapes and things. And anyway, him and I chit chat every once in a while. I had some new merch I was spoiling for him, and he was asking about our Wax Vessel release we did back right before COVID, I think, or a few years before. You're familiar with Wax Vessel, right?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Wax Vessel is this dude from, I believe, Chicago, and then another guy from somewhere in Ohio, I think maybe Cleveland. And they find a bunch of bands from like the MySpace era that never put out records on vinyl. And they press these like 15 out of 10 rating quality. Like they're like works of art. And they sell for exorbitant amount of money, like I mean, like seriously, like I've seen some of these records from some bands sell for like north of $1,000. Yeah, they're like these keepsakes for people.
That's cool.
Anyway,
super fans.
Yeah, to kind of circle back to this really stupid story that I decided to start telling. Ryan asked me if I still had my copies of the record, because they had these like member mage that like the artist got or whatever. And I was like, I've never even physically held one of those things. I was a drunk still when that was released. And I honestly gave no shit about the band whatsoever. And I had no plans of writing anything ever again.
Wow.
And I think about it too, because like See You Next Tuesday during my 20s was what kept me busy and, steered me in the right path. So See You Next Tuesday's kind of always been my my distraction, I guess.
That's awesome. That's crazy that the alcohol totally took away your motivation to create.
Oh yeah, it numbed me for sure.
Wow, that's heavy.
Way to start a show off.
No, I love it. No, I like it very. That's heavy, but I like it. I'm glad that you're on the other side of it, though, and that you are being creative, because you have dropped a bunch of stuff recently, and that's
a lot of stuff.
Now we know why.
Yeah, it was built up for, I guess, fucking 10 years or
Pent up creativity, just sitting behind that.
Just watered down by a bunch of fucking liquor.
God damn. Well, I'm glad you're in a better place, honestly.
Yeah, thank you.
Talk to me about you growing up, discovering music. One of my favorite questions, classic Vox&Hops question, is the soundtrack of your youth. When you were growing up in your parents' or guardians' house, what music was playing when you were not in control of the radio? What music did your parents or guardians listen to?
Did my parents listen to?
Yeah, but like the music that was playing while you were a kid in the background that framed who you are.
Honestly, there wasn't really. I'm going to be totally honest. That's another dark path. I don't know.
My gosh. Okay. I'm right hitting all the nails.
We're just on a roll. I had a lot of trauma growing up, and I don't really remember much before like 15. Very, very faded memories and stuff. I had my father passed when I was like 9.
Wow.
So it was like a bunch of.
Goddamn.
But yeah, honestly, as far as my youth, the only music that I remember, have any memory of, is classical music, like Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, stuff of that nature. Gershwin.
Where did that come from? Then?
I was an insomniac as a child, and I remember I have a random memory of my dad playing classical music to try to like calm me down and help me sleep.
Is that something that's come around in your life now again? Or is it something that you want to stay away from because it brings you down that dark path?
As far as listening to classical music?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I don't. No, it doesn't trigger me at all. No, if I hear it, I still appreciate it for what it is. I don't go out of my way to listen to it often. But then again, like there's a lot of stuff that I do listen to that has classical vibes and things of that nature, you know. I played in a gypsy jazz trio for like 3 years. I was playing upright bass. I don't know if you're familiar with gypsy jazz, like Django Reinhardt.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so like 1930s acoustic,
That's
no
sick.
drums, jazz.
Hey.
Yeah. And we did like we did a Gershwin tune, and you know we did there was a couple other classical pieces that we did, some French ones. I can't remember the names of them now. They're like on the tip of my tongue, but I can't.
We'll finish. We'll wrap up here. You'll be lying down in bed later, and you're going to be like,
exactly.
So what music came into your life on your own? Where did that come from, this passion for music? Because obviously it's there.
MTV is where it really started. Yeah. My youth, I can remember junior high, whatever years that was. So like maybe 12, 13-ish. I remember like Beastie Boys, Beck, Butthole Surfers, you know, and then I started getting into like Korn, Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine, Primus, Incubus, Snot, Soulfly, you know, and I just started going down these paths. And you know, and like I grew up in like a poor town in northern Michigan, and you know, I go to like these trailer park parties in my youth. I told you I was a bad kid in my high school years. And, you know, it was like Pantera, Metallica, and Megadeth, and Ozzy Osbourne, and, you know, Black Sabbath and shit. So it's a lot of mix of all the metal and weird stuff that was around in the 90s. I'm 41. So,
same. We're the same age.
Hey, how about it? Are you a March baby by chance?
I am not. I'm a July 83.
Oh, okay. Yeah, March 83. So yeah, I you know, I was exposed in a lot of different ways, you know, MTV, just going to parties.
Was it the music or the videos? Because that's something that I didn't grow up with MTV in the house. I wish it did. I'm wondering if the videos caught your attention more, or the sonic aspect of it.
The sonic aspect, because I started playing drums in junior high in the band.
That's cool.
And yeah, I remember.
I wish my high school had that.
Yeah, it was junior high actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember being like 6th grade and doing like that Sepultura song.
6th grade doing Sepultura song? Come on,
like
that's amazing.
I coordinated all these fucking redneck kids to do a Sepultura song, and we did Beautiful People.
Yeah, we had no choice at that point, but
yeah, we just kind of like whipped them in, because we had like our marching cadence that you had to march to, and we were able to all splash in like a little
stuff that your personality's into it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's sick. So drums, you play bass, you play guitar, so many instruments all at once. Drums
not
first,
all
though.
At once,
but drums first.
Drums. I started at I was like 12-ish or 13. I remember I had private lessons on a drum kit, and then I did marching band and stuff. And then I got in my first like metal band at like 14. We were called Siren.
That's cool.
And yeah, and we did Slayer covers, and yeah, we played like South of Heaven and Rain and Blood and War Ensemble. And
that's sick.
We were awful.
Yeah,
but
you
so
have
anyway,
to be.
yeah, so we didn't have a bass player, and this other kid also sort of played drums, but didn't have a drum kit. So I literally was like, I don't care. I want to be in a band. I sold him my drum kit to go fund a bass. So I bought a bass and an amp, and then we started our first band. And then by like 16, I found a record store in Flint, Michigan, called Wyatt Earp. And, it was like a head shop. They sold like bongs and like fucking swords.
It's so funny how so many of these stories that I talk to people, and it's places like that. You find your metal records at the head shops that is ran by some hippie dude.
Yeah, dude. I bought Dillinger Escape Plan.
Wow.
Calculating Infinity, and I bought Coalesce 12-second in Revolution, and just listening, because the fucking Relapse, the little thing on the Relapse records, the CDs.
That was the seal of approval.
Yeah, and then just fucking shit hit the fan after that. I remember it was funny because I remember I was going to get like my eyebrow pierced at like a piercing shop, and my mom took me, and I remember walking in. This was my first like time hearing something that wasn't on MTV, by the way. I didn't just drive to Wyatt Earp because I was like, I'm cool. No, I found out from this piercer guy. So anyway, my mom took me to get pierced. This dude, like, 22, and fucking, I walk in, and Jehovah's Ladder by Converge was like just started that.
And you're like, what is this?
I know. I literally was like awestruck. I was like, what is this? And he's like, it's a band called Converge. And I was like, where do I find this? And he was like, Wyatt Earp in Flint, Michigan. And my buddy Adam Karpinski and I fucking jumped in his literal red Astro van and drove down to Wyatt Earp and just started exploring. They didn't have Convergent at the time. I remember coming back to there like a couple weeks later. I was down there all the time, though. I mean, just buying records, because like there was nothing. We didn't even have a mall in Bay City. Well, it was under construction. I think we had like a Yonkers and then some shit around it. But we didn't have like, I guess we got Best Buy at some point in the early 2000s. But that was still like a neighboring town over. And if I'm going to get on the highway, I might as well go another fucking half hour.
And then go to the cool head shop and support
exactly
that guy or that person or that inspired so many people. I bet they don't even know that they've inspired you, and here you are talking.
Right, years later. But it was Relapse for sure was a big thing for me. I remember like just buying any record that had that fucking thing on it, because I felt like that label back then, they just didn't miss. Like Soylent Green and fucking Neurosis. No, not Neurosis. Neurosis was on Relapse, right?
Mastodon too, I think, if I'm not crazy.
Mastodon.
It's Gordon.
Oh, Today is the Day. Today is the Day was another one that I remember buying back then.
It's all Gordon. Gordon Conrad, who's now at Season's Best. Man. Yeah. He's an awesome dude. That's awesome. So eventually you switched to guitar. What's that conversation? How did the bass become too boring? No, I'm sorry, bassists.
Well, throughout my teens, up into my early 20s, I kind of experimented with a lot of stuff. I did like keyboards in a band, and I kind of went down like the Mr. Bungle, Secret Chiefs 3 and Prodigy, and I had that. It was like another pathway that was like subsequently parallel to my metal.
Yeah,
I was like
the creative,
I was
wacky,
listening
out
to
there
like
music.
Yeah, I was listening to like Origin and Secret Chiefs 3 like simultaneously. I bought a set of tablas, and I had a mandolin, which a mandolin actually has appeared on 3 See You Next Tuesday records. But yeah, it was just I randomly was like 21, and I remember buying my first guitar. It was like a piece of shit Ibanez, and I learned how to play a bunch of Marilyn Manson songs on it. and like Pantera and Slayer, just all the shit that I remembered from my, like being 14. I just transferred it over to guitar and learned to do power chords, learned to do drop D.
Yeah.
So play, fucking Deftones.
Hell yeah.
And then I randomly came across this Brian Moore guitar. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
No, that I'm not. No.
It was a Brian Moore I9, and it had a tremolo bar on it. And that just I just connected with that.
Opened up the doors to bendy possibilities.
Yeah, I like a lot of the stuff. Our original first EP, the Twat EP, this was a tragedy.
Yeah.
It was like this 6-song record that we recorded in Josh Schroeder, who now like is the dude that recorded Lorna Shore and King April and stuff.
Exactly
he lives in the town over from me.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone keep going to Josh, but don't let him make you sound like Lorna Shore, please. There can only be one. Find your own identity, people. He's done a bunch of stuff. No, he did Stryker. I know that he's done a bunch of bands, too. He did Stryker, which sounds nothing. He did Signs of the Swarm, and David told me that they had a rule that if it sounded like Lorna Shore, they couldn't do it.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure they accomplished, but it's okay.
Yeah, that one's pretty close. But I mean, the stylistically, they're very close. But like similar. He did that. What's that new metal band with Mike Portnoy's kid?
Not Vended. That's Corey Taylor's one.
They're from Pittsburgh. Tala. Like he did that. Yeah. He did that Tala record, and I'm not gonna lie, man. Like that record sounds fucking like. I think that's one of his best work.
Hell yeah, and that vocalist is
really,
insane.
really good. Yeah, and they're obviously Max Portnoy is just fucking like S-tier drummer shit. He's very creative, and that kick drum. I tried to get Josh to let me sample it, but he wouldn't let me.
No, my gosh. Come on, Josh. Be nice. And if Josh is booked, people, you can always go to my guitarist, Christian Donaldson. He will gladly mix your band.
I also mix, too.
You do? I know. I have that on my...
Yeah.
I noticed that for the EP. The split, sorry.
Yeah. I did Distractions, Most Relapses, and Asymmetrics.
Talk to me about that starting production. At what point did that become something that interests you? Did it start from you demoing yourself and then just learning over time?
Actually, during my after See You Next Tuesday, I worked at Guitar Center like everyone else that has fucking tattoos and was in the band. And I got into electronic music, like Skrillex was just coming out around that time, like 2009, 2010. And I remember just being like fucking floored by Skrillex. I don't know if you're into electronic
I've definitely
music.
Heard Skrillex.
Yeah.
And I know who he is, and I know that he did some collab with Korn.
Yep. Skrillex is it's Sonny Meyer, the dude from First to Last.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But he invented a style of music called dubstep.
Correct. Yeah.
No, it was, it was like hearing Dillinger Escape playing the first time. Mm-hmm. Like the first time mathcore hit people's ears. Like no one had a name for it.
What is that? Yeah.
It was the Dillinger Escape Plan, and then like every other band started making it, so it had to get a name, and it was mathcore. I mean, it's the same with like Meshuggah and Gent, even though they're not Gent, or whatever. But yeah, like Sonny Skrillex invented dubstep for the most part. Just like just that wacky like 10 different synthesizers patched in and out, making all these sounds that people were just like, what is this?
And then when the heavy part comes back, it's heavy as fuck.
Yeah, and then the shit is heavy, and it's like metal, like breakdown heavy shit. So I started getting into that, and throughout my career at Guitar Center, I started learning. I took a class and got a free copy of Ableton, and I still use Ableton now. All these records that I recently put out were all recorded and mixed in Ableton. So yeah, I just kind of started messing around, mixing metal and guitar and dubstep and other electronic music, and got really into synthesizers. And I was always big, like I said, Mr. Bungle, and I grew up listening to Prodigy and Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson. And
music is so vast and open. You can't just stick to the guitar or the drums. You can mess around with heaviness in so many different ways.
Well, I've had such a absorbent musical path, journey. Like I've played banjo, mandolin, tablas, and various other instruments, and it's just everything kind of interests me. And as soon as I figured it out, or it was too hard, I gave up and moved on. Some stuff stuck. Like I still play my mandolin. I tried playing banjo for like 4 years, and it's just really fucking hard.
I don't think I've ever even held a banjo. I don't think
they're
have.
Heavy.
They're heavier than
heavy.
Oh, really? Okay. That's interesting.
I was, are you familiar with Bella Fleck and the Flecktones?
I've definitely heard the name, yeah.
Okay. Do you know who Victor Wooten is?
I totally know who Victor Wooten is, yes.
Okay. So Victor Wooten was like one of my biggest musical influences as a musician. Just even his speeches, like in his DVDs. I remember watching his DVDs growing up, or even fucking VHS tapes. I had a VHS tape of him from the 80s. But he's just so motivational, talking about how music is like is language. And the moment you realize that, like, every time you learn a scale, you're just adding to your vocabulary. And if you want to be in a band and be able to talk to other musicians, you have to learn their language and how they communicate.
So true.
It's so his way of, like, he's so zen. You know what I mean? The dude has just been at peace since his existence, and he's just such a smart dude, and his emotional attachment to music, listening to that is so motivational for me. But Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, he played in this band with his brother, who played this thing called the drum axe synthitar, which is like this weird, it looks like an accordion, but it sounds like he's playing a full jazz kit, and it's crazy.
Wow. Oh, I have to check that out. I'm totally going to watch that.
He made it.
Because he's one of those, yeah.
His name he goes by the name Future Man.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, yep. So Bella Fleck plays banjo. I had his signature banjo. It was like a solid body banjo with an EMG pickup with double horns. It looked like an SG. I had that. I had one of those for like 4 years. I just couldn't do it. But he was such that band in general is just inspiring. I saw him live once, and they had a saxophone player with him named Jeff Coffin, and he did a fucking solo with 2 saxophones at the same time.
Wow. Yeah.
I was like, man, maybe 20. Going to see them at Frederick Meyer Gardens in Grand Rapids, like this beautiful museum.
It is interesting that music is never over. Learning is never over. Our mind should we should constantly be stimulated. And I feel like if we ever feel like I've learned it all, then you should stop.
Yeah. And you can't. And that's to circle back to where I was trying to get with electronic music, is like, not that I've mastered a mandolin or I've mastered a guitar or anything like that, but like I'm very fluent with the guitar. You know what I mean? I've played it for 20 plus years. I'll never give it up, but there's a finite amount of stuff. Well, I wouldn't say finite. There's a smaller amount of sounds that are at your palate. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously there's different distortions, and effects pedals get pretty wacky these days.
Well, there's only so many notes you can play with.
Only so many notes you can play. And with synthesis, one of my favorite artists right now that really takes advantage of this is Author Punisher.
Yeah, I was thinking about him when you said that the Future Man invented his thing, because
yeah, same thing, but so fucking awesome. One of his biggest things are the notes in between notes, because he's using synthesis. that is bending of the voltage. You know, with synthesis, you're just there's a term called volt per octave. You know, every fluctuation in a volt changes an octave of a pitch of a synthesizer, and you can have up to a 15 volt range, and everything in between, not just 12 notes per octave, but you have every millisecond, or, you know, every kilohertz of a frequency between those volts produces a pitch. There's a really cool thing Author Punisher used to do. He took it on tour with them when he did those dates with Tool before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And it was this giant fucking cement, like this cylinder that was on ball bearings that he spun, and that was sending a MIDI signal to a synthesizer. And as it sped up, the pitch would increase.
So cool.
As it slowed down, the pitch would drop. And you would hear just these waves of, and you can't do that with a guitar as differently every time. Like, obviously I could do a whammy.
Yeah.
You know, I could do blah, blah, blah stuff, but it's just different. And I just feel like I feel more limitless when it comes to electronic music. So even splashing it into stuff, to metal, or just learning how to like produce that type of stuff and create those types of sounds. Like, there's so many more soundscapes that are out there at your disposal. It literally makes me feel limitless. Like, I could be like, this part sounds generic. You know what it could use is not some orchestral deathcore shit, but some weird sound that I made, you know?
Especially the way Tristan does it, which is it's like almost organic, even though the fact that it's not.
Yeah. Oh my God. But it is, you know what I mean? Like, it's all motion at his fingertips.
Cool. He's so cool.
You ever seen him live?
I haven't. I've had him on the podcast, but I have never seen him live.
Oh my God, dude. I saw him at this like 250 cap venue in Detroit called The Sanctuary.
I've played there. Yeah.
And like, dude, and that's the other thing about electronic music. Like, the lowest note of my bass player's note cannot get as low and as clean as Tristan can get.
Correct.
And dude, I'm not kidding you. When I left that concert, like, my rib cage was vibrating so much that like my insides felt relaxed. Like, I remember like feeling almost jello. Like,
he gave you a massage.
Home, like,
your organs got a massage.
Yeah, it was an experience.
So
man.
cool.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
I'd love to tour with
Highly
them.
recommend anybody that's watching. It's
Author Punisher people. Let's do it. Let's talk about Asymmetrics. It's a split you did with Meth. Very cool idea. I'll let you explain it because I know it, but I don't know it as well as you. Sharing drum tracks. You guys wrote drum tracks and then shared it with each other, and each band wrote different songs. I feel like that's what I understood.
Yeah. So I'll kind of just walk you through like the timeline.
Perfect, please.
And it explains it as we go. So in a nutshell, sometime late last year, Relapses was done, and we're just like wrapping up the artwork and getting everything ready for the release. Jimmy was over at my house, our drummer Jimmy, and we kind of just started talking about this idea of like musical chairs, but with bands. Because I just got off this high horse of working with 12 different amazing artists. Because I don't know how familiar you are with Relapses.
I am not. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we did Distractions, came out in 2023. February of this year, we released this record that's called Relapses, which is remixes of Distractions.
Oh, very cool.
And each track was remixed by somebody different artists from all over the world. Thought Crimes from Illinois, John Connor from the Netherlands.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Death Trippa from New Zealand. So Frontier from the UK, and here in the States. Obviously, Chad is here in the States. So we just got done working with all these musicians on these collabs and remixes and stuff. And I was just like, I want to do more. I want to do more with other bands. I live in this small town, and I've never been in any other band but See You Next Tuesday that mattered. And I don't have a lot of opportunities to, so it's just like, it just made sense. So anyway, Jimmy and I were talking, and we were sort of talking about this like three-way swapping idea. And originally we were talking to Sawtooth Grin and the band Chapong from New York. And it was going to be like three bands that were going to swap multiple things. And just life stuff got in the way with both the other bands. They both couldn't do it. And then like we kind of already started the process, and back in like January of this year, I drove down to Jimmy's house in Ohio, and we just set up a bunch of mics and recorded his drums. And I was just like, well, let's just start the idea. You know, the plan kind of like came together in a week and then like fell apart in 3 days. So I was just like, whatever, we'll just start the idea and see what happens. So we recorded a whole bunch of Jimmy playing drums, just random patterns. You know, he just ad libs some stuff. He did some fucking 311 drum beat. And, I had like 15 minutes of music, and I got home and started putting it together and made.
There was no riffs. It was just drums, and then you added stuff on top.
Yes. Yep. So I just put the drums together and just made 3 songs, and was just like, here's the structure of these 3 songs. So then we did a few shows in February, just a few weeks later with Meth. And I was just like, dude, Seb, do you want to do something crazy? And I kind of explained to him that we were talking about Chapong and Sawtooth and that it just didn't work out for them. I was like, let's just simplify the idea. Let's just do 2 bands, and we'll just switch drum tracks. You know, just have your drummer Andrew just jam some shit, form a couple songs together, and send them our way. And we'd write to that. And then one idea that I really wanted to stick with, and it actually panned out. I don't know if you've listened to the record in its entirety yet.
Not the whole thing. No, sorry.
Okay. We have these secret songs. I'll explain these later. But anyway, well, when the idea first started coming to fruition, Chapong, again, was kind of in the loop and was a band that was going to hopefully be involved. Their main guitar guy, the main writer, his name's Shtiz. He had the idea of doing where if the drum tracks were unaltered and 2 bands wrote different music over the same drum tracks, we could do a version where it's the drums are in like a stereo field, and we put all of the music for one band in one ear. Oh. And the music from the other band in the other ear. I was like, that sounds crazy. And he sent me a link to a YouTube video. You know the band Test from Brazil?
No, I don't know what Test is. No.
They're like a power violence, kind of old school punk, hardcore stuff. But they did something similar where they wrote stuff, 2 different songs. But they kind of like wrote it together, recorded it together, so sonically it sounded more cohesive. So I was just like, let's just do this like a social, like fucking social experiment. So this is all I'm explaining this all to Seb, and he's like, this is fucked up. I love it. Let's do it. So we're like, okay, I have our songs. We have the drums already. Just get Andrew to do some drums, and we'll switch them. But let's not talk about it to each other at all. So that was a big part of the rules. Like, we didn't want to alter what the other person would do. We wanted to see how far off or how close the mark we would hit. Because obviously there's like stops to music, you know, a snare roll versus a gravity beat versus like a groovy part. You know, there's things that like you inherently will click to and be like, this will be the rhythm of my riff. So I figured like we would have some cohesiveness, and like, boy, was I wrong. After like, man, it was probably like June or so before we all like got each other the tracks and wrote every top of everything. after everything was done, so I had all of my stuff over my drums and all of our songs over Meth drums. All 6 tracks done. I've listened to them 100 times. And ours were actually all mixed and stuff too. So like I had already got like some of the mix done and stuff like that. I tracked everything already. And then they tracked everything, but I had to mix all their stuff. But we waited till they were completely done and we switched the tracks and like sent each other a Dropbox file simultaneously. And we're just like blown away how crazily different their shit is. Like it couldn't be more different, but like it so works. So if you listen to the record, it's 2 EPs technically, which if you buy it as a vinyl, it's a side A and side B. It's like a dual cover thing.
Awesome. And
it's a gatefold. So when it opens up, you see the full face because each cover has like a half of a face, hence the asymmetrics. Anyway, so yeah, if you listen to it, each song, the last track, so the 6th track of each side ends and there's like a little something. And then the songs start where the drums are, again, they're mixed to the stereo field. And then I took all the music and lyrics of our stuff, mixed it to a mono track, panned it all left, and then took all their stuff, mixed it to mono, panned it all right. And it's like hard right and hard left. And there's times where like it literally feels like a cacophony of sound. But it's all held together because the drums, like it stops together. You know, even though they're doing different stuff, like it still has that cohesiveness to it. I highly suggest put some
very,
headphones
very
on.
wacky. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it is. It was a ton of fun. It was an absolute ton of fun.
It's super creative. It's super, super, super interesting. What was it strange to write to someone else's drums? Is that since See You Next Tuesday has been the band that you've been working on for so long?
Yeah. It was challenging, but in like a fun way, if that makes sense. Like I was really
because it's new. It's exciting.
It is. It was like a new puppy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it made me mad, but it was like, I wanted it no more than anything, you know? No, it was, here's the thing is like, before I even got their drum tracks, I'm a big fan of stoner doom. Obviously growing up listening to Ozzy, Black Sabbath. So I was just like, I was really amped on. You ever heard Beelzebong?
No. Beelzebub, maybe. Yeah.
Beelzebong?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
They're like new school Black Sabbath, like just jammy, kind of bluesy, pentatonic metal, stoner doom type of stuff. But like they have like riffs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they get down with some riffs. Yeah. And that's where like the song Pulled from Flesh, you know, just those noodly guitar licks and stuff. Like it kind of made me think of like War Pigs, you know, the where it had like these spaces. And I was like, man, in each of those spaces, I need to just do some fucking Tony Iommi, like, and it worked. But like going into it, before I even really had those tracks, I knew that I wanted like a fuzzed out fucking sound. You know, I wanted like a Beelzebong, Bong Ripper, like somewhere around that, real down tuned, fuzzy guitar, fuzzy, undiscernible bass. And as soon as I got, because listening to Meth, like I knew like Andrew was going to have some fun drum beats, and he did. He definitely delivered. And yeah, it was just like I knew going into it where I wanted. So once I got the tracks, I was just like, it was like, oh man, this is perfect. And as frustrating, or not necessarily frustrating, but like as weird as it was, like such a curveball to write to such different type of music, it was fantastic. I had a ton of fun.
Is it something ever you guys would do live, like play a show together? And is that possible, feasible, and then hypothetically play all at the same time with the one drummer? That would be hard.
Yeah. I don't know if we'd be able to do. I don't know if we'd be able to do the all at the same time. We've been talking about doing. Where like both bands are set up on each side of the stage.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
And like this, our drummer could play a song with us and then play the same drums with them, and then their drummer could play a song with them, and then that same drum song with us. So we've talked about it. I recently have been trying to like get all parties involved. It would be a big feat to get everybody together, but it'd be really cool.
It'd be a cool celebration to have.
Yeah, but it'd be really cool if I could manage to get Red Chord and Nights Like These. I mean, that'd be just like a hell of a show. You know what I mean? Like Nights Like These opens up, Red Chord plays, and then Meth and us on the stage at the same time. Yeah, and then we play a song and Guy gets to sit in on vocals, or Billy from Nights Like These gets to sit on vocals. It would just be a big thing, and it'd be really cool to get like some professional video of. It's all in my head, and it's all stuff that I'm just spilling the beans. But
this is what you do while you're post office walking around. All the ideas are flowing.
Exactly. And I keep myself distracted.
You have. That's good. That's great.
4 years is still 4 years, but it's still you still need to keep busy. Yeah, exactly.
I know how it is. Yeah, that is amazing. Why guests? It was already like super ambitious. Why did you choose to have guests on it?
Both just kind of fell into place. We didn't really plan that at all. Honestly, so Relapses came out, which was that remix album. Long story short, on Distractions, we had 2 songs that were like 30 seconds long that were like cyber grind. I remixed those by writing guitars to them and having our drummer
play it,
record real drums over the program drums and make grindcore songs. And instead of having our vocalists just do the same vocals again, we had guest vocals, and it was Kyle Medina, Body Snatcher, and Rich Lombardi of Sawtooth Grin. And as soon as we released that, and Chad from Frontier did vocals on the record as well on a different song. So it's like we had all these people on there. Right after we released the record, we get a message from the Red Chord, or Guy, and he was like, "Thanks for the invite on a guest spot." And I'm like,
I do the same thing. Yeah, I'm the same.
Dude, I'm so sorry. And it was just like, next project, you're on.
Awesome.
And we were in the middle of this, and Fox and I were talking about vocals after everything was recorded and stuff. And I was just like, man, we should probably ask Guy. He'd be real mad if we don't. And then we kind of had the idea, how Asymmetrics is kind of split into 4 chapters. While I was writing those first 3 songs, the first chapter, The Road to Doom, I had it as a session as 1 song.
Mm-hmm.
And when I sent it to Guy, it was just 1 song. We just had him kind of do a few spots. And then I finally decided how I was going to chop them up. And it ended up being 3 full songs with him on it. And then literally within weeks of us getting ready to record the stuff over the Meth drums, Fox booked an appointment with Billy from Nights Like These, who lives in Missouri and was flying up here to Michigan to get tattooed by Fox.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to get out of his home state and, do something fun. And what an opportune thing. And we're like, hey, we're recording these songs. And
come to the studio, lay down some vocals.
They're like some stony doom stuff, a la Nights Like These anyway. You want to just jump on? And he just took the reins. I'll be honest with you, Billy wrote most of the lyrics for those last 3 songs on the record.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, he just kind of took the reins. He had a lot of stuff to say at that time. You know what I mean? How you could be somewhere in your life and having the ability to write something is just what you needed.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a lot to say at that time, and it just all came together perfectly. So
That's sick.
It just all kind of just fell into place. You know
Super
what I mean?
creative. Out of the box. You're melding the weird Mr. Bungle itch with See You Next Tuesday with this ambitious project. I'm impressed.
Yeah,
I'm going to re-listen to it again, being even more impressed tomorrow. I'm happy the Red Chord are back, by the way. I wanted to say that.
Yeah, same. We just got to play with them a few weeks ago. We did 3 dates with Pig Destroyer and the Red Chord.
I also love them. Yeah.
And it was amazing. I mean, we did a tour back in the day with Red Chord. We did like 5 weeks with them. And I think it was Through the Eyes of the Dead was on that tour too.
Wow.
And it was huge shows. All Shall Perish, us, Through the Eyes of the Dead, and the Red Chord. Just
sick.
Fucking like the best tour that we did, period.
That's awesome.
And yeah. And so we kind of I've always kept in touch, you know, Guy and Greg and Charn and, you know, Mike. They're just they're the coolest fucking dudes. I don't know if you've ever had them on your show.
I have not. I used to talk to Guy because he was my indie merch rep. I feel like I'm right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is many years ago, like 12 years ago type thing.
You should have him on here. You'd enjoy it.
I would love that.
Guy's a very, very down to earth dude, very, very open to doing something fun on the internet too.
Awesome.
They have the itch. They got that itch right now. They're having a lot of fun. Obviously, people fucking miss them as a band, and all of them are just so happy to be doing this again. So it's like
we're happy they're back.
I guarantee you they would take the opportunity to chat with.
Sick. Well, you make an intro, and I will definitely make that happen. One last question. I typically ask people for their hangover cure, but that does not apply here. I will ask you the Fight the Hops.
I do remember mine.
If you want to share it, go for it, but I have another one afterwards.
All right. Well, just Pedialyte.
I have one in the fridge all the time, but I haven't used it in many months, so I'm doing pretty good. I say it's for the kids, but one last question. My Fight the Hops question. Short-term goal, something you hope to accomplish within the next month, 2 months. What are you doing right now to fight the hops? What's your short-term goal?
I don't know if it'll come to fruition. Like, it's not going to actually like happen in the next couple of months, but I'm hoping it will come to fruition. But we are talking potentially of doing a short tour in Japan, which would be our first time.
Yeah, Japan's amazing.
Yeah, we've yet to tour over there. And it could potentially be with a really, really awesome band that would mean the world to me to meet them, because we've been friends all of the internet for a while now. Not to spoil anything, but
so cool. Yeah,
knock on wood. I don't want it to not happen.
Universe,
you know what I mean?
Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that all comes to fruition in the next little bit here, but it's in the universe. It is in the metaverse currently.
That's amazing. So, when I see it get announced, I'll be happy for you, and I'll send you a message.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you,
Drew. Thank you so much for hanging with me, talking about your life, talking about music, talking about sobriety, talking about a very, very interesting split, Asymmetrics. Go listen to it, people, because it's mind blowing, and I want to listen to it again, knowing all this extra information. Drew, you rule. Thank you so very much. Cheers,
Matt. Thanks for having me on, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right today. You know that I love and appreciate it. Man, this was an intense conversation. I am so happy that I connected with Drew. This unique experience that he provided with Asymmetrics, the collab album that he just dropped with Meth, is just so ambitious, so interesting. What an crazy concept that he pulled off. I'm blown away by it. You should most definitely check out Asymmetrics if you have not yet, and go back and dig into their other stuff. Obviously, See You Next Tuesday is a cult band, and for a reason, just killer material. Drew, thank you so much for hanging out with me, for being so honest. What a beautiful conversation this was. I'm so happy that we connected. The Vox&Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound, Talent Media, and Evergreen Podcasts. I hope that you have a killer rest of the week. I will be back next week with another episode, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox&Hops heads.